Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for allowing us to be here. This whole tournament's been a bloody pleasure. Thanks a lot. What's this debate about? Well, from the wording of the motion, you may be confused. It was somewhat obtusely worded. What we're taking it as is that by assimilation, we do not mean completely giving up on their culture and declaring themselves Han Chinese. What we mean is that the Tibetans should support the assimilation of Tibet into China as an inalienable part of China forevermore. We believe this applies to Tibetans, both within what we think of as the statelets, or the idea of the place of Tibet, and the wider Tibetan plateau and Tibet in China. What practically do we mean by this? We should mean that all the armed groups that are, while currently not fighting, are still armed, should lay down their arms and abide by peace. We believe monks, religious leaders, etc. should preach integration with China. Everyone should learn Cantonese in school. Everyone should sing the national anthem. These people should be an ethnic subgroup within the People's Republic of China, inalienably and forevermore. How do we think... Clarification?
Yeah.
Okay.
Given that religion is so paramount to the Tibetan culture, why do you think China will allow them to integrate without...
For fuck's sake, sit down. That is not a point of clarification. I mean, it's a POI. Right, okay, so that aside, how would you think we should judge the success of this debate? I think very simply that we should judge it on the success or failure of this debate and the long-term spiritual, cultural well-being of the Tibetan people. If they're more materially well off, if they can keep their religion, then we think we win. If they can, fair enough, these guys can go through to the final. First point, right? Independence is not an option for the Tibetan people. It has zero chance of success. To put it another way, resistance is futile. There is one example of a functioning, but not technically internationally recognised independent state that's come out of China, People's Republic of China, and that is Taiwan. Let me list for you the ridiculous historical circumstances that allowed that to happen. The internationally recognised government of the Kuomintang fled to Taiwan, to the island of Taiwan, following a civil war. They recruited across an island, giving them a body of water that was separated them from the mainland. They had 30 years of economic superiority with which to embed that idea of an independent Taiwan. They had the protection of the United States Pacific Fleet and the nuclear umbrella that provides to protect them from retaliation from the state of China. And they still do not feel confident enough to declare themselves independent, though in many ways they functionally are. Since mine's, well, not mine's, they were all, farmers or something, but since James's ancestors negotiated the suzerainty of Tibet from the British Empire's perspective in the 18th century, the chances of Tibetan independence from China have done nothing except progressively get worse. They have no great economic power, they have no regional allies. I mean, they're in a rough part of town, guys, bordered by lots of dodgy Central Asian nations and have a superpower conflict between India and China to their north and south. They're not in a nice, safe place, part of the world to declare independence. China, and I'll take you in a second on this, sir. So even if China was willing to let them go, independence for Tibet would be a rough ride in that part of town. But China is most certainly not willing to let them go, sir.
On the other hand, everybody in the West knows about Tibet's struggle, that's why we're having this debate, and the Dalai Lama is an internationally recognized spiritual authority.
Exactly. And that was true 10 years ago, and that was true 20 years ago, and that was true 30 years ago. And Tibet ain't free. And it's less free than it was then. Millions of Han Chinese have emigrated there. The building of the high-altitude railway from the East Coast has brought in both economic development and mass immigration, and is for the soldiers in the room, the ability to move, to logistically move People's Republic Army troops from other parts of China into Tibet is now greater than it's ever been before. In the 40s and the 50s, it was hand carts and donkeys to get troops into Tibet to quell down the rebellion. Now they have the most high-tech railway in the world. They have a motorway system. It is structurally integrated into China. So, but as if case is saying, China is not exactly pro-separatism, right? China is willing to threaten the military force over islands in the South China Sea that British explorers discovered, thought was unimportant, and drove on. China is willing to put tanks in the streets of its own cities to quell popular unrest. China will not take take any idea of independence lying down. So what do we achieve if we can use continued resistance within this situation? What we retrieve by continued resistance is dead Tibetans, monks self-immolating, security forces of China using lethal force to dispel protesters. The ethnic Tibetans throughout the rest of China, in much the same way the Uyghurs feel, being seen with suspicion, being seen as the enemy within, a threat to the people of China.
Even if they lay down their arms, do you ever think that the Chinese government is going to stop being suspicious of these people, is going to stop discriminating against them and all the harms that you're talking about, given how much this
Well, note one thing. Even if they weren't, a futile rebellion is still worse, right? But they are, thankfully. China's a polyethnic, polylingual continental nation, spanning hundreds of ethnicities and 250 or so languages that are taught in schools and used, with Cantonese being the kind of lingua franca of the country. There are literally hundreds of ethnic groups within China who are able to maintain their cultural identity within the People's Republic. One of them is Tibetans. If you went to Tibet this summer, you would find Tibetan cultural festivals. You would find the herders going out onto the plateau as they have done for thousands of years. You would find, like, the reason we know recently about Tibetan unrest in China is about regulations on the size of the largest Buddhist monastery anywhere in the world. These are not a people that are crushed under the thumb of oppression. They are people practicing their religion, they are people practicing their culture, they are people who are living as well as any other ethnic group within the People's Republic of China, of which the other 299, unknown to us, muddle along relatively well. Their material well-being is increasing year on year. They have no prospect of ever becoming independent. And so within that framework, the most rational thing to do is to give up on the thing you can't have and make the best of the thing you do have, which is by being part of China, rich, prosperous, culturally free, and happy. I beg to propose.